Thank you very much, Joe, and thank you for being here. We're going to do the work that we do, this work of transforming trauma, is grounded in meditation. And so we're going to have a couple of experiences of two different kinds of meditation in this next hour. And what I want to do in this time with you is to give you a little feeling for what this approach to psychological trauma is, a sense of how it can manifest in your life and in your practice and in your community. I started the Center for Mind-Body Medicine in 1991. And I think you can you read this from, this visible back there? Yes? No? Yeah, okay, good. So I started the Center for Mind-Body Medicine in 1991. And the idea was to make, and this relates back to the book that Joe mentioned called Manifesto for a New Medicine. It relates back to my understanding that had been growing over many years that self-care, self-awareness, self-care, and group support needed to be central to all of medicine, to the training of all health and mental health professionals, and to the education of our children. And I started a nonprofit to make this happen and to work with people in many, many different institutions. And I did that. I started an independent nonprofit because I couldn't do what I wanted to do in the context either of Georgetown Medical School, where I was a clinical professor. And when I looked for jobs, other institutions where I might be able to do it, I discovered it was not likely to happen. And I'll just tell you a funny story. The last place that I looked, I really didn't look in too many places because I wanted to stay in Washington to have some effect and some influence on the government and to work with people who were trying to bring about progressive change here in the United States as well as overseas. So I did look at DC General, and some of you may remember that DC General used to be the city hospital for Washington, DC. And I had been working on the street with homeless and runaway kids in DC for many years, and working in the schools. And I knew, I kind of knew a fair amount about the scene. And I applied for the job, and I had all these fancy establishment credentials, including being a researcher at NIMH and Harvard Medical School and this clinical professor at Georgetown, and I'd published papers and I'd written books. And what happened was they were ready to hire me. And then I had final interview. And they said to me, the interviewer said, "Dr. Gordon, of course you're going to want to expand the inpatient service." And I said, "Well, actually, no. I think we ought to make I've looked around, I think we ought to make the inpatient service smaller. We need to be doing much more work in the community." And I could feel the temperature in the room drop 5 to 10 degrees. And they said, "Is there anything else you have planned?" And I said, "Yes, the very first thing I'm going to do here is create a wellness program for the staff. Because everybody I've met in this hospital, from the chairs of departments to the people sweeping the floor and the nurses, and everybody's stressed out. So we need to do something to pay attention to that." They said, "Thank you very much, Dr. Gordon." And that was the end of it. And but it was a very good lesson for me, because I saw what the limits of change within an institution could be, and I figured that I was best off helping people who were in institutions, who were willing to stay there and go through the process of slow and laborious change. I was better off helping them to get the tools, the skill, maybe the savvy and the courage at times that they needed to change those institutions and to support them in doing that. So that's why I started the Center for Mind-Body Medicine. And we have now trained about close to 7,000 people have come through our training program in mind-body medicine. Another 3,000 have come through our training program in food as medicine, or basic nutrition training program. There's a little bit of information about our programs, and I'm circulating a couple of pieces of paper. If you want to be on the mailing list, just please put your full name and your email, and we'll keep you on the mailing list for what we do. I was explaining at lunch that we have two ways of working. One is through an open training program, at least one annually in the US every year, where anyone is welcome to come. First 5 days are learning all the techniques of self-awareness and self-care, both in a large group format and also in small supportive groups. Groups are fundamental to the work that we do. So that goes on for 5 days and is taught by our faculty. We have 130 faculty, about 70, 80 here in the US, the rest are overseas. The second part of the training, we teach you how to integrate what you've learned into your practice and how to lead the mind-body skills groups that we use in our training and in the work we do in various places. And you have the opportunity to lead those groups. And then we provide supervision and certification. I won't get into all of that. Just wanted to give you a sense of what we do. The other part of our work increasingly is working with whole communities that contract with us to come and train people in those communities so that they can learn our model and so that they can use it throughout the community. And we're working with maybe 8 or 10 communities here in the United States and about as many overseas in a variety of different countries. And you can see the list here, and I'll come back to this in a moment. But the idea is that this approach is based on the understanding, first of all, since we're focusing on trauma, that trauma comes to everyone sooner or later. If it doesn't come early in life, and all of you know this, if it doesn't come early in life from poverty or discrimination or abusive and neglectful family, and there are unfortunately so many of them here in the United States as well as in other places, it will likely come during our youth and our middle years as we deal with those crises that come up, divorce, illness, deaths of people who are close to us. And if it doesn't come then, it will surely come, as all of the spiritual traditions have understood, as we grow old, become frail, lose people we love, and face our own deaths. Sometimes people say, well, are there degrees of trauma? And do you work with them differently? And someone asked me that at lunch, and I just want to be clear, yes, it is different. When I meet someone wandering around the rubble of his home in Gaza, and he tells me, and he shows me a video of 26 members of his family who have died 2 days before, that is different from somebody who's dealing with a crisis of chronic illness or a divorce. But we work with all those people essentially the same way. We create this program of self-awareness, self-care, and group support, and invite people to participate in it. It's a program that can be done both within a medical framework. That is, if you're a therapist here in the United States, you can bill for it as group therapy. You can bill for doing this work with individuals as individual sessions. But it's also very often done in a non-medical framework. And our largest program is in Gaza, as it happens, where we've trained 900 people and have worked with 170,000 children and adults. We have quite large programs in Haiti and Kosovo, with Syrian refugees in Jordan, as well as in a number of communities following climate-related disasters. I don't call them natural disasters, but they are climate-related disasters, school shootings, and communities affected by historical trauma here in the United States. So, and the people we train are health and mental health professionals, but also educators, leaders of women's groups, community organizers, clergy. We train a lot of peer counselors. Peer counselors, we've done a lot of that work with veterans. Veterans like to talk with other veterans. We're also doing an increasing amount of training of peer counselors of teenagers. We have a big program on Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota, peer counseling program. We have one in Gaza, and we have one in Broward County, Florida, and Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, where the shootings were in Parkland. We have 130 peer counselors we're training there. That program is growing and spreading to many other schools in Broward County. So the idea is that anyone of good intelligence who is committed to becoming more self-aware and using what they've learned, and committed also to teaching others and to receiving supervision as they teach others what they've learned, can be trained by us. And the people are selected by the communities in consultation with us. So we really go to a community and we present ourselves and say, here we are, this is what we have to offer. If you'd like to work with us, this is what we can do with you. And then we proceed in partnership with the communities. And when comes time for questions, we can talk much more about that. Mind-body medicine is grounded in the understanding, and I'm sure so much of this is already familiar to probably most of you, in the understanding that everything that goes on psychologically, cognitively, emotionally, affects every cell in our body, and everything that's going on in our body affects what we think and feel and how we relate to others. And our understanding is there's a continual conversation going on that is anatomical, it's physiological, it's biochemical, going on among all parts of this integrated being. And mind-body medicine are those techniques and approaches that can allow us to enter that conversation in a way that is productive and therapeutic. And there are many, many approaches and techniques. This book of mine is called The Transformation, and it describes all the techniques that we use in our trainings, all the techniques. It's a book written for anyone. I wrote it because people, after I wrote my last book on depression, a book called Unstuck, people said, well, this is great. It's great for people who are depressed, but what about the rest of us? Why don't you write a book for everyone? So this is my effort to write a book for everyone, since trauma will come to all of us. And this is really grounded also in the understanding that we can not only balance out the physiology and psychology and the social relations that have been disrupted by trauma, restore balance, but we can also use trauma as an opening to transformation. And this is an aboriginal, as I mentioned at lunch, an aboriginal understanding. This is what traditional societies seem to have pretty much all over the planet understood, is that part of what qualifies one to be an official healer in those societies is to have gone through some kind of extremely challenging, if not life-threatening circumstance. Could be a life-threatening illness, could be psychosis, could be a major depression, suicidal feelings, that those people who have these experiences as young people who move through them and grow through them are then selected to be the healers of the next generation. And that understanding is part of our work. It's a kind of understanding that now informs the research on what's called post-traumatic growth. It's a modern kind of social science-y way of describing something that's very, very similar. And so this is our understanding, that part of the process of moving through and beyond trauma, whether or not it's going to become your vocation, part of it is beginning to share whatever knowledge and wisdom you have gained with other people. So that's something that we encourage. This is really sort of 50 years of work condensed into one book with lots of references about the science, some of which I'll show you. And if you'd like, I'm happy to send you, if you put your name and email down, I'll send you these PowerPoints. Not a problem. So this is mind-body medicine. Here are some of the techniques that we use in mind-body medicine, and there's more to what we do, because we also do a lot of work with self-expression and self-discovery through words, drawings, and movement. And that's an important part of our work. And we also use genograms. And I'm sure many of you have used genograms in your work. We use them as ways not only to explore vulnerabilities in a family, but also to discover strengths in the family. So somebody may be going through a crisis of some kind, maybe facing a potentially fatal illness. When they're having time with their genogram, whether it's I'm teaching it in the transformation or we're doing it in a book, they create the genogram, and the question is, where are you going to find sources of support in this genogram? And there may or may not be, whether it's the example of an ancestor or reaching out to somebody who's alive. And sometimes when there's nothing that comes across in the genogram, we encourage people to look for other possibilities. And just one brief story. We're doing a training at Eskenazi Health, which is the largest safety net hospital system in Indiana. They have a visionary CEO, and we're working with the whole hospital system and the whole community mental health system in Indianapolis. And in one of the first trainings that we did there was a guy in my group, and he was a very conservative Christian priest. He was a pretty together guy. We did his genogram, and it turned out his mother was a prostitute who abandoned him when he was 3 days old. His father was in jail for, I think, attempted murder. The grandmother to whom he was given was, in his words, an indifferent caregiver. I said, well, how did you get to be? Where in this genogram is the support that allowed you to be as together as you are? Not that you don't have some problems, and acknowledge that, but to be as together as you are. He said, well, it's not there yet. And I said, well, okay, well, would you put it there? So he drew the unmistakable picture of the Starship Enterprise. He said, when I was a little kid and I was so alone and there was nobody to care for me, that was my family. You know, he had that incredible capacity that all of us have seen, if not in ourselves, then in people we work with, to somehow find sources of support and strength. So he said when he was a little kid, it was just a fantasy relationship, but when he got to be about 7 or 8, he was able to reach out to all the Trekkies everywhere. And for the next 10 years, that was his family. And they supported him, they got to know him, he got to know them. So all these techniques are part of a program of self-awareness and self-care that we teach and give people the science of. Meditation, as I said when I began, is central to our work. Meditation and medicine come from the same Sanskrit and Greek root word, M.E.D, which means to take the measure of and to care for, roughly the science and the art of medicine. Now, they don't teach that as required learning in most medical schools, so far as I know. Our program is in about 20 U.S. medical schools, the program that I'm describing, as an elective, though, so all the students don't have to take it. It's also in some psychiatric residencies. But it's not central yet to medical education. The reason meditation and medicine have always gone together, I hypothesize there are a few basic reasons. That, first of all, meditation is what allows us to relax and be present in each moment. The definition that I like of meditation is simply relaxed moment-to-moment awareness. And that's crucial to our healing, to balancing out our physiology, our psychology, to giving us perspective. It is also crucial to, I think, what Erik Erikson called disciplined subjectivity, being present with another human being. Carl Rogers, unconditional positive regard, being in that relaxed state yourself, because if you're preoccupied, if you're worried about this and that and thinking about what happened yesterday, how can you or I or anyone possibly be with someone? So meditation is crucial to the practice of any kind of healing. But beyond that, it was understood both aboriginally and also in the high classical systems of medicine. And I'm including here Indian Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, and Greek Hippocratic medicine. It was understood that the accumulation of knowledge and the gaining of a position of prestige brought with it temptations to pride and arrogance. I don't know if you've ever noticed that. And that there had to be some kind of corrective, that with great knowledge, it was important to have some kind of wisdom and some kind of humility. And meditation in one form or another has been the tool to make that happen. And this has been discovered, if you will, independently all across the planet. Now, there are three basic kinds of meditation. There are thousands of forms. They were created at different times, in different societies, to meet different kinds of needs. But they can be categorized in three forms. Concentrative, which we're going to do in a moment, is focusing on a sound or an image. Repetitive prayers can be understood as concentrative meditations, whether it's Our Father, or Shema Yisrael, or Illallahu Illallah, or Hare Krishna, prayers, but also concentrative meditations. Those are quite old. The earliest ones that we have recorded are in the Vedas. Then there's mindfulness or awareness meditation. The earliest kind that we know of comes from Siddhartha Gautama, whom we call the Buddha, 2,500 years old. Becoming aware of thoughts, feelings, sensations as they arise. The oldest kind of meditation are the expressive meditations, active physical techniques. Could be jumping up and down and shouting, could be whirling, fast, deep breathing, shaking and dancing. We'll be doing one of those in a little bit, once we've had a little time to digest the lunch. Right now, I want to teach you a concentrative meditation, and it take about 10 minutes. And this is the way we begin our work. It's understood that when we're focusing on trauma here, so when we're traumatized, there are two basic biological reactions that are called into play. One is the fight or flight reaction, with which we're all familiar. And fight or flight is present in all vertebrates. We've known that for almost 100 years from Walter Bradford Cannon's research on it. And it's designed to be quickly turned on and just as quickly turned off. So for example, if you've seen a nature film of animals like antelope grazing on the Serengeti Plain in Africa, and a lion comes along, antelope startles and runs. She immediately goes into flight because her genetic programming tells her she ain't going to fight a lion. She just got to get out of there. So if she's not caught and she gets away, 2 or 3 minutes later on the film, you can see her just eating calmly. Fight or flight has done its job, turned on, and just as quickly turned off. Because when we're in fight or flight, digestion's not working. No time to stop for a snack when someone else is trying to eat you. You just got to get out of there. And of course, fight or flight increases blood pressure, heart rate, tenses up the big muscles, getting ready to fight or to flee. The problem And of course, and fight or flight also stimulates centers of our brain, particularly in the amygdala, responsible for fear and anger, and dampens the effectiveness of the frontal cortex. And I'll go through that a little bit more fully in a moment when we do the concentrated meditation. So that's fight or flight. The problem is not with fight or flight. The problem is that we stay in fight or flight long after the threat is over. We carry the lion with us, or else some of us continue to be in situations where there are lions all around. Sometimes involuntarily. For example, if we're in the middle of a war, or we don't have any money and we're living in a poor and violent neighborhood, sometimes we choose to stay in those situations. Second response to trauma is when the trauma is overwhelming and inescapable. And we were talking at lunch today, the obvious example that we've all seen is children in abusive families. They can't get away, they're dependent on the people who are treating them so horribly. So what they do is, in addition to often being in fight or flight, they go into the freeze response. Fight or flight, you'll remember, is mediated by the sympathetic half of the autonomic nervous system. The antidote is relaxation of the parasympathetic nervous system. But there's another part of the parasympathetic nervous system deep in the midbrain that puts us into a freeze response when the trauma is overwhelming and inescapable. And you see this, I'm sure you've seen it in your practice with grown-up children who've been terribly abused. Not only are they kind of anxious and on edge and may have difficulty sleeping, they're shut down, and you can see it in their bodies. You can feel it in the way they have difficulty relating to you. They don't trust, they don't come close. Many of them are dissociated because when you're in an overwhelming situation and you can't escape, when you're being raped or you're being brutalized in other ways, or you're in the Humvee in Iraq and your buddy's blown up next to you and you can't fight, you can't get out of the Humvee, the last-ditch kind of protection is going into this freeze, this kind of collapse. And with dissociation, often enough. A patient of mine, for example, was tortured in Chilean prisons for 8 months, every imaginable kind of torture. How did she survive? She looked at what was happening to her from the ceiling. She put out lots of endorphins, so she didn't feel all that much pain most of the time. But she was not in her body, and for years afterwards, very difficult to experience her body, experience any pleasure, even kind of know the limits of her body, or connect with and trust other people. Now, in animals, freeze is quickly turned on and quickly turned off. Any of you have cats, pet cat? You ever seen your cat catch a mouse? Yeah. So cat will grab Mousie like this in the jaws and shake her. And then Mousie goes like this, just collapses. You can see him. Sometimes, if the cat doesn't crush the mouse to death, she'll put the mouse down. Mousie shakes herself off, runs off to her mouse hole. The freeze response has come, it's done its life-saving job, and it's over. We humans carry it around with us. Okay, the two antidotes, roughly speaking, to these, antidote to fight or flight is concentrative meditation or slow, deep, soft belly breathing. Antidote to the freeze response are the expressive meditations that allow the body to free itself up. So let's start now with concentrative meditation. You don't have to take notes on it. It's pretty soon there'll be, within the week or two, there'll be videos of me teaching this on our website, cmbm.org. And for those of you who get the transformation, all the information about it and all the references and all the physiologies in there. Okay, so sit comfortably in your chair. And allow yourself to breathe deeply. Breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth, with your belly soft and relaxed. Let your eyes close if that feels comfortable for you. It eliminates a great deal of external stimulation. As you breathe in and out, notice the breath coming in your nose and going out your mouth. To increase the focus on the concentration and the relaxation, you can say to yourself, soft as you breathe in, and belly as you breathe out. Feeling your belly grow soft and relaxed. Breathing slowly and deeply like this, in through the nose and out through the mouth with your belly soft and relaxed. More air goes to the bottom of your lungs where there's better oxygen exchange. So more oxygen enters your bloodstream, and oxygen feeds all the cells in our bodies. Breathing slowly and deeply like this, in through the nose and out through the mouth with the belly soft and relaxed, activates the vagus nerve. That's V-A-G-U-S. Vagus means wandering in Latin. And this big nerve wanders up from our belly through our chest, back to the central nervous system, to the brain. It slows heart rate, lowers blood pressure, relaxes the big muscles in our bodies, and makes digestion smoother, easier, more efficient. Breathing slowly and deeply like this, in through the nose and out through the mouth with the belly soft and relaxed, quiets activity in the amygdala, A-M-Y-G-D-A-L-A, a center in the emotional brain responsible for fear and anger that fires wildly when we're in fight or flight. And breathing slowly and deeply like this, in through the nose and out through the mouth, stimulates areas of our frontal cortex that are responsible for thoughtful decision-making, self-awareness, and compassion. And one branch of the vagus nerve connects with other cranial nerves responsible for speech and facial expression. So when we're breathing slowly and deeply like this, in through the nose and out through the mouth, with our belly soft and relaxed, we're quieting our body, calming our mind, enhancing our capacity to be self-aware, to think clearly, and to have compassion for ourselves and others. And we're making it easier to read other people's facial expressions, to tune into their speech. Breathing slowly and deeply like this, in through the nose and out through the mouth, with our belly soft and relaxed, all the other muscles in our bodies begin to relax. And perhaps you can feel that. Feeling the muscles relax in your belly and your pelvis and your buttocks as you exhale. Feeling the muscles relax in your legs and feet. Feeling your back relax from your butt up to your head. Relaxing with each exhalation. Feeling the muscles relax in your chest and shoulders. And in your neck and face and head, feel those muscles relax as you exhale. Feel your whole body relax with each exhalation. To encourage this process, you can say to yourself, soft as you breathe in, and belly as you breathe out. If thoughts come, let them come and let them go. Gently bring your mind back to soft belly. Okay, open your eyes, let your attention come back in the room. Always a little risky doing this right after lunch. If you fell asleep, that's okay, don't worry about it. How many of you notice any change from before till after you did this? Just raise your hand, any change at all? Beautiful, okay. What kind of change? Just shout it out, anyone. Relaxed, what else?
Fewer thoughts in the mind. Fewer thoughts running through my mind.
Fewer thoughts, beautiful. Thoughts are going to keep on coming. How many people had thoughts keep on coming? Yeah, but fewer is beautiful. And the idea is that thoughts will come. Let them come, let them go. Little by little, there'll be fewer, they'll be less overwhelming. You'll gain perspective on them. Anybody feel shoulders getting a little more relaxed? Yeah. So each of these specific changes is important in itself. Equally important is the experience of being able to make a change. One of the most troubling parts of being traumatized is the sense that nothing will ever change. Feeling helpless and hopeless, which of course are the hallmarks of depression as well. What this technique, which we do first time, I do it very early in the transformation in the book, teach it right in the first group when we're working with people, right in the first session with individuals. It gives, maybe in this room, at least 80, maybe 90% of people notice the change. Same is true pretty much anywhere. Even when we do it in the middle of a war, literally, guns going off, 70, 80% of people can relax some. Can't do anything about the bombs anyway. So this gives people a first-hand experience. I can make a difference in how I feel. And so I'm no longer helpless, and because I can make one difference, the way our mind works, it understands that maybe it's possible to make other differences too. This is very important. This is absolutely foundational, as far as I'm concerned, to working with people with trauma. And we do it right away. Sometimes people ask, well, when do you start working with trauma? And the answer is as soon as people are ready. As soon as anyone is ready. We offer right away. We've worked in the middle of wars in a number of places, worked shortly after school shootings. Whenever people are ready, we begin. Now, I see my time is already getting short. I want to teach you, I can keep going? Okay. The one other thing that I want to make sure I teach you, and I don't know if I need to go through the slides, and this will take a bit of time. These you don't need these. You have these. As I said, if you give me your name and your email, I will be happy to send you all the slides. Meditation is very powerful medicine. If I am fond of saying, if meditation were patentable and profitable, every physician on the planet would prescribe it the first time somebody walked into their office. The literature on meditation, the research literature, which I've been paying attention to for 45 years, is better than just about any medical intervention that I know of, maybe, well, except for insulin for type 1 diabetes, or surgery for an acute appendicitis, or penicillin for pneumococcal pneumonia, if it still works for pneumococcal. I mean, it's at that level, just about. I put this slide up because how many of you are familiar with telomeres? Well, it's interesting. It's a whole new. Elizabeth Blackburn won the Nobel Prize for her research on telomeres. Telomeres are structures on chromosomes that shorten as we get older. And stress is a significant shortener of telomeres. And it looks like shortening of telomeres may be correlated very closely with having a shorter lifespan. Meditation has definitely been shown to stop the shortening of telomeres and may indeed help telomeres that have been shortened to regrow. That's not hard science yet. So I mention that just to give you one sense of the power. Meditation, let me see if I have this other slide. Meditation not only changes brain functioning, but it also changes brain structure. And a couple of the studies that I want to call your attention to is one is in the amygdala, which is the center of fear and anger. People who meditate on a regular basis are able to quiet that activity. And the amygdala, which is grown huge with ongoing fear and anger, gets smaller, comes back to its appropriate size. So this is, and I'm just quoting, this is just one of many, many studies. Meditation also creates new brain cells. And this research was first published in 1999. If I had told you 25 years ago that meditation created new brain cells, I don't know if I would have been burned at the stake, but everybody would have laughed in derision at such a notion, because the teaching was at once you're 18, 19, 20 years old, you don't grow any new brain cells. But it's not true. Meditation can create new brain cells in the frontal cortex as well as in the hippocampus, which is responsible for aspects of memory and also for mediating the stress response. I want to see if I have, yes. Sarah Lazar's work is really important. This is just one of many studies. Harvard and University of California, San Francisco are two major places where studies are going on the effect on brain function and structure of meditation. I would like the study of Lazar's very much because it was done on people who were naive meditators who took a fairly intensive course in meditation, learned how to meditate, and then began to meditate, and they between 2 and 6 hours a week, they were able to rebuild parts of the frontal cortex, to add tissue in the frontal cortex in exactly those areas that are damaged in psychological trauma. So, and there are a whole bunch of studies that have been done showing this. This is a study on meditation and telomerase. The point that I want to make is that meditation should be central to everyone's work with trauma. And maybe I sound dogmatic. All right, so be it. As far as I'm concerned, it is crucial to helping people rebalance themselves and can be so easily integrated into anything else that you're doing. And the evidence is there. And, it's not a question of belief. Check it out, check out the references. I have dozens and dozens of references in the transformation. There are a few references here in these slides. Now, the second piece that's crucial to working with trauma that I want to make sure everyone sort of gets is moving the body. Now, we know that physical exercise is really a very extremely valuable treatment, particularly for depression, but also for anxiety, also for preventing as well as treating a variety of different kinds of cancer, particularly breast cancer, prostate cancer, colon cancer. Moving the body is absolutely central to prevention and treatment both. Now, in addition to physical exercise of different kinds, and the research on exercise, how many of you have looked at least reasonably carefully at the research on exercise and depression? Great, okay. So I recommend if you haven't, just take a look at it. And I think you'll get the message loud and clear. But in addition to exercise, when we are shut down and we are frozen, we need to open up that body that is shut down. Trauma goes into the body in ways that we don't entirely understand. But we know that the natural response of animals to trauma, and one of the researchers, a researcher named Peter Levine, who studied this a fair amount, that one of the things that happens is that the animals, just like that little mousey, they shake it off, right? And you've seen that with your dog. You're walking your dog, they get into a confrontation, they're in fight or flight. Then in order to, the confrontation's over, they shake themselves and they go on their merry way. So one of the first techniques that we use, the first kind of expressive meditation that we teach, is shaking and dancing. So I'm going to ask everybody to stand up. And Toby, can you help me here? Make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing here with the music? I think I got it. But.
Shake or dance, which one?
Yeah, can you help me and just ask you to turn this on when it comes right on? Okay, so this is an expressive meditation. I'm going to take my sweater off. Give me a minute. I'll be warm. There are 3 parts to this. The first part is shaking. Put your feet shoulder width, and if you can't stand up, you can do this sitting. There are for some of the expressive meditations that are doing very fast, deep breathing like this, you have to be careful of certain physical conditions, which I describe and we make clear to people. This one, there are no contraindications. Anybody can shake and dance. If you can't stand, do it while you're sitting. You can do it in a hospital bed. Anybody can do it. So you shake like this. Start from the feet up. Yeah, that's it. Now, those of you who are a little self-conscious, I think somebody back there may be a little don't stop for now. We're going to come back to this in a moment. In order to help the self-conscious ones among us, and to some degree we're all self-conscious. This is not something we do on a regular basis in our society. This is something that although it's there. Expressive meditations are still in some Christian churches. People are dancing and singing and speaking in tongues at times. Orthodox Jews daven and they dance. Muslims do dance and do whirling, different sects. So it's still there in the monotheistic religions. It's part of every indigenous society that I know of on the planet. And they do it regularly because they understand that the vicissitudes of being a human being mean we're going to get jammed up periodically, and we need to loosen up and open ourselves up. So the first part is shaking. And I had wanted to check the time because we're going to do this for about an hour and a half. No, we're going to do it for about 5 or 6 minutes. And then we're going to stop, and then another kind of music is going to go on, and let the music move you. Now, I don't say dance because then everybody has an idea, right? It's waltz, it's salsa, it's electric slide, something like that. If there, I don't know, whatever, there are 80, 100 people here, there'll be that many different kinds of dance. Now, to ensure that you're able to do your own dance and you're not going to be too self-conscious, there's a condition for this experiment. Close your eyes so you're not peeking around and you're not saying, oh, I think you need some help with your shaking. Or, oh, she's so good at shaking. Oh, I could never do that. No. This is just for each of us. Okay? So 3 parts to this. First part is shaking. Second part is relaxing, breathing deeply, becoming aware of the breath and the body. A couple of minutes of mindfulness. And then the third part is letting the music move you. Everybody got this one? Okay. So we'll start with the first part, and then I'll count down, and then I'll say stop. And then stop the first part. And then after, okay? You want to help me with that?
You want to play this one first?
That's the first one, yeah.
And then you want to go to that one.
Yeah, but we're going to have a 2-minute pause in between one and the other. Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. He's been pressed into service. But you can still shake. Okay, so take a few deep breaths. And you can thank nature for giving us these bodies, and thank Joe and ISEPP for having this opportunity. And when the music goes on, begin to shake, please. Just breathing deeply till the music goes on. Okay, that's it. Begin shaking. Good. Let the shaking move up from your feet, through your knees and hips. Good. Let it move up into your hips. Keep the eyes closed. If you need to hold on to something because of balance, that's fine. Good. Keep going. Let the shaking move up into your chest and shoulders. Most of us carry so much tension in our chest and shoulders. Good. Keep going. That's it. Come on, pick up the pace a little. Yeah. Let your head go. Good. That's it. Let those shoulders go. We carry so much tension there, most of us do. And let your jaw hang open. Many of us have a lot of tension in our jaws. And if sounds want to come out, Beautiful. Keep going, come on. If you feel like slowing down, pick up the pace. That's it. Okay, 3 minutes to go. We're just getting warmed up now. Good, keep going. Beautiful. Good, keep going. Good, keep going. Yeah, let the shaking move your whole body. 2 minutes to go. Pick up the pace a little. Keep going. You got nothing to lose except your stress, your tension, and your trauma. Let it go.
Every little thing gonna be alright, gonna be alright. Need no worry about a thing. Every little thing gonna be alright, gonna be alright.
Thank you, Toby. Yeah, let's go back to the PowerPoint. No. So, how was that for you? How do you feel? Yeah? Little more energy? Okay. Anybody have emotions come up during this? Anybody have emotions come up while you were doing this? I did. No, some? Yes. I won't ask you which ones. But. So anybody, some of you had difficulties. You want to share the difficulties? Difficulties are always good. We all learn from our own difficulties and everyone else's as well, if we pay attention. Anyone want to share any difficulties? Yes. My hearing is horrible, even with hearing aids, so I'm not close to you.
I'm not sure if it constitutes a difficulty or not, but there were occasions when I felt a little disoriented. Disoriented. I bumped into the table, and I found myself leaning to my right rather than just staying aligned. And for the moment, I got a little anxious.
What you might want to do then, thank you for this. If you're feeling that way, you may want to keep your eyes open, but face away from other people, so you're not making them self-conscious or feeling self-conscious. That may happen. Any other difficulties anyone has? Okay. This is very powerful technique. It's very powerful for bringing up emotions. It is, as far as I'm concerned, again, these kinds of expressive meditations should be part of treatment of everyone who's been traumatized. They're very effective, they work very fast, and the greater the trauma, the more powerful they tend to be. I'll give you one example. We were working in Haiti. We began work in Haiti just a couple weeks after the earthquake, and we still have a program, big program in Haiti. And about a year after the earthquake, I was doing a workshop for nursing students. You may remember that there were 90 nursing students were killed in the earthquake. One of their buildings collapsed. And I was doing a workshop for about 100 nursing students, and these 17, 18, 19-year-old girls. They were all girls. And they're very, very polite. They were enjoying the workshop. We did soft belly breathing. It seemed fine. And then after an hour or two, I got them up shaking and dancing. And within 3 minutes after we began shaking, half the girls were crying. And then stopped. Girls continued to cry. Music came on, same music as here, came on. Now the girls were crying, the girls were laughing, the girls were dancing. Afterwards, I asked, what was it like? We had plenty of time, and the girls said, this is the first time we've been able to cry since the earthquake. We have had to be strong for everyone else. We are nurses. That's our job, is to take care of other people, take care of the little children, take care of our parents and our grandparents. We've not been able to cry. It's such a relief. And we haven't laughed either. Felt we had to be so serious. And we haven't danced. And we're girls, we like to dance. And then one of them looked at me and she said, and Jim, we love Bob Marley, but we are Haitian girls and we have wonderful Haitian music. I said, great, give me the Haitian music from now on in Haiti. I use Haitian music. This was the beginning of the healing for these girls. And this is what happens in trauma. I've seen this over and over. I've seen it in Kosovo, Israel, Gaza, with Syrian refugees in Jordan, working in Central Asia, working in South Sudan, where the war continues to go on, working with US vets. This begins to open people up and allows them to have their feelings. And then you create a situation. We only had a workshop, but they were able to share in the workshop. In the small group, you can share what's coming up. Share with them. I lost my sister. She was killed. My best friend died. My mother is heartbroken. Whatever it is, they have the opportunity, and it brings up something that had not come up in over a year since the earthquake. I need to stop now. If you want to see videos of this work, there's a 60-minute, CBS 60 Minutes, filmed our work with the war-traumatized kids in Gaza and Israel. It's on our website, CMBM. There are other videos of our work with Syrian refugees, Pine Ridge Reservation, our national training program here. The research on our work, we published the first randomized controlled trial of any intervention with war-traumatized children, and it showed an 85% decrease in PTSD after 11 weeks in a group, learning these self-care techniques. And important thing about that, first of all, it's effective. Those results have been repeated with kids and adults in Gaza. But in Kosovo and many other places, the people leading the groups are not super high qualified mental health professionals. In Kosovo, these were rural high school teachers whom we trained in our model, who were supervised by our leadership team, who were psychiatrists and psychologists in Kosovo. So the research is there. We published a whole bunch of papers on it. The information about the videos of our work. The book is on sale here. There are some copies. I'll be happy to sign the copies. I'll sit over there for a bit afterwards. Everything is in here. If you put your name on the mailing list, then we can keep you posted about what the trainings that we're doing, and you can be in touch with me as well. So thank you.